What's up guys, this is Jackie, your salty crafter. Since so many people absolutely loved my honest review on the Karina Garcia slime kit,
I am unsubscribed to you, angry face.
You are warg. She is true. You are lie.
You are wrong. Stop bullying. You are not famous. Do what? You are so Ming.
Water jealousy.
I figured why not take a shot at another popular product. So I'm going to give you my first impressions and what's wrong with this model magic clay. I've never really used it, so I have no idea what to expect, and I will be comparing it to polymer clay, which is a baked clay, and this is a non-baked clay. Am I being unfair? Most probably, but hey, why not? Today's shout out goes to Amy Geek Rumi, or Amy Geek Rumi, who's been a long-time subscriber on this channel. If you want a shout out in my next video, make sure you hashtag Notification Squad in the first 45 minutes of a video's release, or tag me on Instagram with one of your creations, hashtag Nerdecrafter. First, let's look at price. This was about $26, and there's 7 ounces in there. However, if you look at a block of clay, it's about 2 ounces. So we have about pretty much 3.5 times as much in there, which would run us at about $14 if we were to get the same amount of polymer clay as there would be in here. Is it a value? Heck no. You know what? Let's check it out. I'm really curious because I've never seen what's inside. Okay, so far we're getting one of these colors. So 1 brown, 1 orange, 1 black, and 1 purple. And then the rest come in doubles. Pretty sure they should be doing 2 of every color because that just seems more fair, especially at that price. So as you guys can see, we get 0.5 ounces of each color. So it's really not that much. But in addition to that, I want to show you what bugs me the most. You have to wait 72 hours before your creation is dry. Now, firstly, if you're going to let anyone or a kid play with clay, you're obviously going to supervise. So why not polymer clay? Because polymer clay will actually harden in about half an hour. Half an hour and you get your creation instead of 72 hours. Let's get our first impression with how this feels. Oh, that is a weird feeling. Okay, it kind of feels like plastic. Is this even good? I don't know what's going on. Okay, the good thing about this so far is that pieces do stick to each other really easily. I'm very curious to see if it holds on. Oh, it doesn't hold onto the surface. Is that a mess? Did we already make a mess? I think we did. Let's just get that out of there. So it does tear very easy, but if you stretch it slowly, you're fine. And the pieces do stick to each other. Now, I'm really curious to see if it can hold its shape, because if you're going to sculpt something, you want to make sure that it can hold its shape without crumbling. Do I have to use wires on this? It's kind of still falling. So we've established that the texture is weird. Think of it as really dried up slime. That's the texture it feels like. So what I want to really test out is, how does this fare in the oven? I know it's not made for the oven, and don't try this at home because you're not a salty crafter. And I am a salty crafter, and I want to try this in the oven. Let's see what happens when it stays 10 minutes in the oven.
Salty Crafter exclusives.
This is after 2 minutes. It's still holding up. Here it is after 10 minutes. I am really impressed that it's holding up so far. Morning hair? Well, yes it is. Don't mind if I do. I am 15 minutes in now. I am actually genuinely impressed that this didn't melt. So the point goes to you, Crayola. The only thing is that it had a little bit of a crack over here. Otherwise, it's still pretty much intact and kind of smushy. Still lasted more than I could. Well, it's not too smushy. I mean, it's bouncy, but it's still keeping its shape, which means there's potential to make it dry faster, probably at a lower temperature. That's my guess. Enough bashing. Let's see if we can create something awesome with this.
My first impression was that I was constantly having to battle with gravity. Every time I was trying to put the dragon's neck up, it was becoming less and less of a dragon neck and kind of like a pig's neck, almost inexistent. So I had to constantly try and rebuild it and put it up until at some point I gave up and ended up putting a wire right under the belly. And even then, that didn't keep the structure, holding itself. People could have said, you could have put aluminum foil, but the problem with that is, I'll talk about that in not too long. So it has to do with smoothing, so we'll get to that. Now, the pieces were pretty cool because you're like, oh, they stick together really easily. But then at some point, you're just kind of trying to measure to see if something works, and the pieces then stick to each other, and you're like, I don't want you to stick to each other, but then they end up doing. So that was pretty frustrating. The good thing is it's pretty easy to create new colors, so that wasn't too hard. But coming back to the part that they stick to each other, I was kind of just trying to remove the red from the dragon's eye and ended up creating a stain. I couldn't get rid of the stain because you can't smooth it out and you can't clean it out. If you have a trick with that, let me know because I had no idea. I kept thinking, what does Model Magic's texture feel like? And I couldn't put it together until I had a huzzah moment. It feels like foam paper. That's exactly what it feels like. It just feels like mushy foam paper. So the texture itself is really misleading because you think, hey, this is not going to stick to each other. But it actually ends up sticking to each other. So it kind of builds that confidence in you to trust the product that's going to stick to each other. And then after 30 minutes of working on this dragon, the pieces stopped sticking to each other. So it's like this trust that was built after 30 minutes and it's all gone because it just started to dry and you couldn't put the pieces together and everything was just falling. So I stopped being meticulous and I started having to try and fight against time because I had to try and get these pieces sticking together. Smoothing. It just wasn't happening. I was trying to get the pieces as seamless as possible, but I just kept smoothing, and you just can't get a proper transition from one piece to another because the pieces, again, they're very misleading. You think that they're gonna stick, and they do stick, and sometimes they don't stick, but they just won't smooth into each other. So if you can see around the tail and around the ears and even around the wings, when I tried to smooth the pieces together, it just wasn't going. And then when I tried to put the wing on the back of the dragon, another thing that ended up happening is that it kept also fighting against gravity again, which means that I couldn't smooth it, and then it just smushed. So the second wing on the other side was just absolutely disgusting to look at. After 24 hours of putting this dragon together, it was dry and it kind of spongy, soft, exactly like foam paper texture.
All right, all done. Let me tell you all the pros and cons. I'm gonna start with the cons first because it's a SaltEcrafter, of course. The price to gram or price to ounce is definitely way higher than you would get with clay. Adhesiveness, it was so frustrating trying to get the pieces together. And this one took me about 30-40 minutes to put together, but near the end, as I was putting the pieces together, it just was falling apart, so I couldn't really get the pieces to stick. If you probably wet it just a little bit, it probably could get back a little bit of its stickiness, but that's kind of a hassle. Cracking. So, oh, I think another piece fell. So if you look here, because we're constantly working against gravity and we're trying to smooth things, you can see that we are getting some cracks here and there, and I haven't even like pulled it apart or anything. It just cracks. That's what it looks like. Another thing that really bugged me was the fact that I couldn't smooth my bits together properly. I tried. So I couldn't get the pieces to smooth in, so it does look, I guess it has this childish charm. And if you could see Here also, this was a little frustrating over there. There we go. Yeah, we're still getting cracks, and you just can't smooth your pieces in as well as you would want them to. It's droopiness. It just keeps fighting gravity nonstop. Every time I'm trying to put the head back straight, it's like, meh, and it just keeps falling down. And I keep I'm like, okay, guy, you could get this. And he's like, meh. So it just, that's another thing. And you can see the wings right there. Oh, where? Right there. Yeah, it just, first of all, see, I just couldn't smooth it because by then nothing wanted to stick together and I was just trying to smooth, and then it just kept falling because even though I have a wire there, it just kept falling. So that was another thing. It just constantly fighting gravity. The other thing is that they claim, hang on there, they claim that you can look for all 22 colors. 22 colors might seem like a lot, but it's actually not that much in terms of your color choices. They're pretty vibrant, but you're really not getting that many colors for your buck. So if you look at polymer clay, the huge section of color choices is really there. So you have everything from your pastels to your flashy colors, and this one is just flashy colors. So you kind of have to try and dilute the colors if you want it less saturated. 72 hours for me to wait for this piece to dry. So it takes, at least if it were 72 hours, but I had, let's say 2 hours to kind of have this playability, that would be good. But the fact that I have 40 minutes to work on something before it starts losing its adhesiveness, and then I have to wait 72 hours for it, it just doesn't make any sense for me. So if you're going to give me 72 hours for something to harden technically, then ideally give me a little bit more playtime with it. So that totally was annoying because I was like, all right, 72 hours, all right, 72 hours, all right, 72 hours. But whoa, only half an hour of playability? Now don't get me wrong, I can definitely see some of the pros, I was about to say cons, I can definitely see some of the pros of this product. And again, I'm gonna come back on the colors because even though you don't have many color choices, the ones that are there are pretty vibrant and I think they're really pretty. So if you're going to make kind of a flashy dragon, that's okay. If you're going to do, I guess, projects that are a little more pretty or very much with a kind of childish soul to them, it definitely is really pretty. So colors are a pro. Another thing I really loved about this is how lightweight it is. It really does feel kind of like it's floating on a cloud, and it's just so light. And that's all I have for the pros. So overall, I would give this product, the Model Magic from Crayola, a 3.5 on 10 dorks. If you have any other craft products that you want me to salty review, leave them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to check them out and maybe be just a little biased. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until then, I will see you in the next video.